In the world of modern portable electronics, tablets are in a somewhat weird position. Everyone knows what an iPad is, and we literally name a generation as iPad baby because they were handed an iPad as a baby when they couldn't stop crying. I posted this poll on our YouTube post, which you should check out by the way because we oftentimes do post stuff like this. And with over 200 votes, a majority went for Android tablets, and you also voiced your reasons in the comments as well. I had a good time reading and I agree with many of your points from both sides. Though I have to say, our audience is mostly skewed towards the Android world as our content is mostly focused on Android phones and tablets. I have used an iPad and Android tablets across multiple different brands, but I spent the most time with Samsung tablets. And I'm very familiar with the quirks of both platforms, and I would say none of them are perfect. I also know that some people will tell me that, oh, maybe Apple changed something on iPadOS 26. So I also updated this iPad to iPadOS 26 before doing this video, and it is actually quite important for today's topic, and I'm glad that Apple is taking some of the initiatives to solve the issues that are existing on iPads. So, one sentence that many people will say is that iPads have better apps, and I do think that this sentence is quite misleading. The perfect example here is actually Duolingo, which is the reason why I'm making this video in the first place. The ever-popular language learning app filled with memes and actually pretty useful courses is the app that I use to learn Mandarin Chinese. I can hear and speak pretty broken Mandarin Chinese, but I don't actually know how to read them, let alone writing the characters. Duolingo actually helped me to get to a certain level of reading, and I'm happy about that. But the app itself has a different experience on both Apple and Android devices. The perfect example that I can show you is this one, scaling. I find it easier to have the text look humongous on the big screen so I can clearly see the Chinese character with intricate details as, well, some of the characters look way too similar to each other and I'm having a hard time recognizing them. On iPads, we do have the feature to scale the app. However, even if I selected it to scale like 300%, which is the maximum, it doesn't actually work. Some apps can scale, like Reddit, but some apps just cannot scale at all, like Duolingo and also Google Keep, for example. Android devices will just let you scale however much you want, and that is applied system-wide. Best of all, Samsung devices have this feature called Moods and Routines, and we can use this feature for automation so that we can select what apps to scale at a certain percentage. It's a great feature that I use constantly. Though iPadOS is better in one particular case. In these types of lesson in Duolingo, we have to select the correct phrases in the correct sequence to form the sentence. Oftentimes, I arrange a sentence and when I reread it, oh, I should have placed this phrase at a different position. On the iPad, I can just pick it up and then place it in a new position. It's that simple, it's intuitive, and it's just a natural thing to do. On Android though, we cannot lift up the phrase. We have to remove all of the phrases and then place it again in the correct order. Hopefully it's correct the second time. This has been an issue since the beginning of Duolingo actually, and as far as I know, I've been using Duolingo for like 2 years and this issue persisted for that long. I have already reported it back to Duolingo for many times and nothing is fixed. I have no idea why such a fundamental feature is missing on the Android version. Now, let's talk about automation. In this section of the video, we are only talking about Samsung in particular because of Moods and Routines being a Samsung exclusive feature. We have a lot of options on both iPad and Samsung devices, and one thing that I love to do with tablets is to enable auto-rotation for certain apps. For example, YouTube should always be in landscape, otherwise there will be a lot of wasted space on the screen. On Samsung, we can do just that. Just create a routine with these settings and then you'll be good to go. It's so smart that we can make it so that it only rotates when a video is played. On the iPad though, well, there is no such option. The Shortcuts app, at most we can do is to create a button that we can press to perform the rotation, which requires us to manually press the button to activate that shortcut. I mean, I need automation, not micromanaging these kinds of trivial things that I have to press every time to perform simple tasks like auto rotation, for example. I might as well just do it in the quick settings menu, right? And let's not forget that while some apps are indeed better on iOS and also iPadOS, there are some apps that are also terrible as well. It seems like iPadOS is just on both ends of the spectrum of good and bad apps. You see, if the apps are not made for iPads, then the developers will have to enable the option so that iOS versions of that particular app will run on iPadOS. The app is literally, well, what you're seeing right now. It is essentially in iOS mode. There is a huge void between the app itself and the screen bezel. We can minimize it by pressing this button, but it literally just zooms into the app. The text looks horrible, by the way, and yeah, there is still some gap on both sides. If we use it in landscape mode though, yeah, the gaps will grow even wider. To add insult to injury, even the keyboard is in iOS mode. If we are using iPad's floating keyboard before entering this mode, maybe, opening Instagram for example, then it will transform into the iOS keyboard too. Why? It took companies like Meta many years before finally releasing an iPad version of WhatsApp, so that we can finally find more usage for the cellular version of iPads. Don't be confused though, text messages still don't work, and there is no way to receive SMS OTP on the iPad. So that is one big limitation for the cellular version. These kinds of issues just don't exist on Android tablets. You can run Instagram on a larger screen or a smaller device, or maybe even a foldable device. Then it will just scale on the fly. It's not perfect, as some apps like Shopee and Lazada are still fairly broken on foldable phones in particular, but we can mitigate this issue. And we will also have a video about this coming later as well, so do like and subscribe to our channel. Let's circle back to the keyboard. Apple did a great job with this Apple Magic Keyboard, but wow, the touchscreen keyboard is really bad. Seriously, the keyboard didn't change or get upgraded for many years, to the point that it's missing a lot of basic features that we take for granted on Android devices. I personally use Samsung devices, but I don't use Samsung keyboard. I use Gboard and usually swipe type a lot. It has great autocorrection, great gestures to delete words as well, multi-language support, and I can also long press for alternate characters and symbols as well. All of these are customizable. Best of all, nearly all keyboards on Android has this clipboard manager feature. Some of them even saves screenshots into the clipboard manager too. But before you start typing in the comments, yes, there are many other keyboards available on iPads and iPhones as well. For example, we can actually install Gboard on Apple devices, but in actuality, that Gboard is practically just a skin for the built-in Apple keyboard. It's the same situation for the browsers as well, because all of them are practically WebKit browsers. On iPads and iPhones, the autocorrect is wonky, language selection is a hassle, and I am generally very frustrated with Apple's software keyboard. Oh, let's also circle back to apps like Lazada, because there is one big issue that I think is just really stupid on iPads, especially since I also have the Apple Magic Keyboard. You see, if we are using the Apple Magic Keyboard, then it has to be in landscape mode, because it is just how this keyboard is made. So that means the iPad will be used in landscape mode all of the time, and all apps will work in landscape mode, right? Wrong! There are horrible developers like Lazada that has an iPad version, but it only works in portrait mode. That's just super stupid. Look at this! Now, I know it only happens to a handful of apps, but when it does happen, it is really frustrating and absolutely defeats the purpose of having the Apple Magic Keyboard. This also happens on Android tablets, by the way. Duolingo is an app that does not work in landscape mode because it is, designed to be in portrait mode. But at least for Samsung tablets in particular, we can force it to rotate. Yes, there are black bars like we are running iPhone apps on iPads. That is why I'm saying both of these tablets have their own sets of issues. With the introduction of iPadOS 26 though, Apple sort of quote-unquote fixed this issue. Lots of people were complaining how horrible it was to multitask on the iPad, and Apple actually listened. That's why we had Stage Manager a few years ago, and that kinda sorta worked out, but I personally gave it a try once and never again. And now we have something called Windowed Apps, and this is more akin to what we have on macOS. We have the red, yellow and green buttons at the top left corner to close, minimize or expand the app, and we can also drag and resize those apps too, just like a window on macOS. This windowed app mode essentially fixed the issue that we have with black bars on apps. Instagram does not have a black bar anymore, and we can fill up the extra space with another app. Again, it's not perfect, but it works. It kind of feels like Samsung DeX in a way, and many apps can also scale properly when resizing as well, so that's a huge plus. Credit where credit is due, this windowed apps mode is a good move. There is also some form of inter-app communication like dragging and dropping files from the photo apps to Telegram to directly send it off to someone else. That's actually a very good integration in this mode. But no matter what we say about Apple devices, there are still many app developers that will prioritize iPads and iPhones. For example, a very famous creative app called Procreate is amazing for drawing and animating, but it's not available on Android devices. There are also many other apps that are exclusive to iPads and iPhones, or at least time-gated for the time being. Yeah, a lot of time in that sentence. With that said though, I think some apps will remain as Apple exclusives, like the whole Affinity suite of software and also DaVinci Resolve, which are the two prime apps that I use to make this video and thumbnail, actually has an iPad version. With all of that said, I still think that both Apple and Android tablets have their own pros and cons. There is no clear winner between the two, and I would suggest you to actually look into how you actually want to use your device before committing the purchase. Do let me know what you think about everything that was said in this video and share your own experience with us too. Leave them all down in the comment section below, and also remember to hit the like and subscribe button, share it with your friends, and we will see you guys in the next video. I have to admit though, I still love Apple's laptops and desktops. I personally still use the Mac Mini and also MacBook Air, as they are both very aggressively priced with amazing performance and efficiency. macOS is also not perfect, and that's why we have yet another video talking about all of the utilities that we have to install just to make macOS work properly. Yeah, check that video out as well, and all of the other links will be down in the description below. We'll see you guys in the next video.